Today we're covering the top 10 ranked decks at the Pokemon Regional Tournament in Peoria, Illinois. Now, I don't know why they don't do a Chicago tournament. Like, come on Pokemon, just do Chicago, make everyone's lives a little easier. Also, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Christian. I am a competitive Pokemon card player. I also do like a lot of pack openings and that kind of stuff too on this channel, but we are definitely going more of a competitive route. Just to add a little bit of credibility to what my thoughts and opinions might be if you are new to the channel, I am currently, or I was, ranked 29 in Canada during the Peoria Regionals event. And they also have a 78% win rate when it comes to the Pokemon TCG at local Pokemon card tournaments with Miraidon EX. So there's that after 10 tournaments. And also, before we dive into the top 10 ranked decks, I want to give a huge shout out to all my fellow Canadians. The Canadian players are absolutely dominating things here in North America. The last three majors that all happened in North America were won by Canadians. We have Cyrus Davis, who won the NAIC 2023 tournament. We have Andrew Estrada, who won Pittsburgh. And then we have Raymond Long, who just won the tournament in Peoria. So Canada on top, Canada #1.
Let's go.
One last thing before we dive into a bunch of the deck coverage, I want to let you guys know I am still currently in Mexico on a family vacation, but I'm getting a bunch of work done. I got my laptop over here. I got my got a bunch of League Battle deck thingies here as well. I'm trying to catch up on work, but also I'm on vacation, you feel me? So I don't want to work too much. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. If you appreciate the uploads while we're here in Mexico, hit that like button down below. I am working on a couple tournament vlogs, including Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won't be up until I'm back from vacation. And I also have the first ever Pokemon 151 League Challenge tournament. I'll be uploading that this week. I was gonna upload it today, but we're doing this one instead. Starting off with number 10. Charizard EX with Arvin, piloted by Austin Daniels, took 10th place at Peoria Regionals. And I gotta say, the Charizard hype is real. 3 attackers in this deck. You got Charizard EX, you got Radiant Charizard, and then you have Entei. Entei is fantastic as well because you can use your Forest Seal Stone on it. And it also has 230 HP, so it is a quite tanky basic Pokemon V. Having 4 copies of Arvin in this deck feels like a must. It really does help with consistency. Being able to get the rare candy you pretty much want every single turn is just absolutely perfect. You of course have Lost Vacuums in here as well, which are searchable by Arvin, and Lost Cities too, because Charizard does absolutely fall apart when you have Path of the Peak out in play. Number 9 is not surprising at all. It's one of the decks I absolutely love. We got Miraidon EX, piloted by Wyatt Palguta. I probably pronounced that wrong, but shout out to Wyatt getting 9th with Miraidon. He has a list that I actually really like. It has the Mew EX from Pokemon 151 that just came out recently. You got that Zapdos as well from Pokemon Go for some extra damage. Of course, got the Raichus and the Raikus in there too, but for a extra free retreater, he has Flying Pikachu V along with the V Max as well. And I gotta say, in the current meta, with the way Charizard EX is, Charizard EX gets a lot of attack power as the game goes on. So you need a beefier, tankier Pokemon to take it on if you're not able to stop them from evolving into Charizard to begin with. So cards like Flying Pikachu VMAX are a great option, along with Ampharos EX if you wanted to go the Ampharos EX route as well. This list is also quite aggressive because it does have a Squawkabilly EX, so you're going to try and really get those turn 1 or turn 2 KOs if you can. You got 3 copies of Path to the Peak and a copy of Collapse Stadium. So this is definitely a very consistent, very solid list. I mean, hey, I got 9th place at the regionals. Coming in at 8th place, we have Grant Shen. This player gets a lot of love on stream. I've seen Grant Shen pop up on the Pokemon tournament streams at regionals quite a bit. I definitely would consider him a top player, and he played Shenpao Baxcalibur. Now, Shenpao Baxcalibur is in a really great place in the meta as well. This build is very consistent. It looks like similar to the build that Lucas played at Pittsburgh, I think he also got top 8th as well, top 8. And he's also a fellow Ontario player, a GTA player. But yeah, Grant Shen, Shenpao Baxcalibur. This list looks fantastic. This list looks so consistent. There's 4 copies of pretty much every single card for trainers for the most part. And you might be a little skeptical because there's no boss's orders, but that's fine because you have cards like Cross Switcher in the deck. So combine Cross Switcher with the 2 different copies of Cancel and Cologne. Nobody's bench or side of the field is safe when Greninja is a live attacker, and it's not very hard to set up that Greninja. Coming in at 7th place, we have Brent Tonneson, who played what a lot of people would actually consider the best deck in the format right now. However, I think with the rise of Charizard EX and the Rise of Path to the Peak decks as well that are meant to kind of counter Charizard EX, Gardevoir is not in the greatest place to be. Those Charizards running around are absolutely insane for Guardia to try and take care of. Here is a look at the list. It has one new card from Pokemon 151. We got the Mew EX in there. And then of course you have a pretty typical standard Gardevoir deck. You got the 4 Ralts, 3 Corellias with Refinement, 1 Mirage Step for some insurance plan. You got the Manaphy in there as well, because you gotta respect all the Greninjas out there. You got 2 copies of Worker and 2 Collapse Stadiums. So only 4 outs to get rid of stadiums. No Palpad is also kind of sketchy as well. 2 Reversal Energies too. I'm personally not a big fan of Gardevoir. I'm also not a fan of a lot of Gardevoir players because most of them are very slow players. I've tied so many Gardevoir players in my life. Like, Gardevoir is the deck I've tied against the most because my opponents play like turtles. Coming in at 6th place is a Lost Box deck that we haven't seen performing amazingly well in terms of like top 8 finishes at a lot of recent tournaments, but a lot of people consider it one of the best ways to play Lost Box besides, of course, Lost Kyogre. I think even Cyrus Davis says this is one of the best decks in the game. Terrence Miller got 6th place with Lost Charizard, or a Sablezard as a lot of people call it. This deck is also a really strong, consistent, flexible deck. You got Cramorant in there for early game pressure. Sableye is an absolute nightmare to have to handle as well. You have the new Ditto from Pokemon 151, so that's one of the new additions for this deck. You also have Radiant Charizard in here as well to close out on those big beefy Pokemon. And the rest of the list looks pretty standard in terms of Sablezard. You also have the Spiritomb to counter a bunch of the Pokemon Vs out there. One of the most interesting techs in this deck, I would have to say, is the Articuno from Pokemon Go, which increases the attack damage of your basic water Pokemon by 10. So you're going to be hitting for 120 now for Spit Innocently on your Cramorant instead of 110, which I guess fixes some numbers. And hey, every damage counter counts when it comes to these Lost Box decks and Sableye in the format. Oh yeah, and how could you forget they also have that Hawlucha in there too for some extra damage counter placement. This deck is another deck that has a really high skill ceiling. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. If you want to play Lost Box, I want to say Kyogre's the hardest, followed by Sablezard in second, and then Turbo Lost Box is a great third choice. It's just not as hard to play as these other 2 decks. Coming in at 5th and 4th place are 2 amazing, incredible players because they are playing one of my favorite decks, or if not my favorite deck. It is Miraidon EX. We have Jesse Parker fresh off of his finalist 2nd place run at the Pittsburgh Regionals. He has shown that he is a consistent Miraidon player and he is not going to give up on the deck. This deck pretty much looks identical to what he played for 2nd place at the Pittsburgh Regional Tournament. Jesse Parker's main losses were to Lost Box Kyogre, which did end up winning Pittsburgh, and in this event as well, he also lost to Lost Box Kyogre as well. So Lost Box, because Miraidon decks like us, we have to disrespect some of those decks like Lost Kyogre because we don't want to put that extra slot in for Manaphy, because that Manaphy does clog up our game plan a little bit. And a lot of us Miraidon players also understand that Lost Kyogre played at its absolute highest level is pretty inconsistent to find because there's a lot of room for mistakes. So if you're going to lose to a Lost Kyogre, it's going to be an insanely talented, skilled top player in the game. So we disrespect the Kyogre matchup, but in terms of closing out and winning the tournaments, if you're gonna end up playing against the Lost Kyogres at the very end of the tournament, that's where the Lost Kyogres can crush you because it is definitely more of a favored matchup for the Lost Kyogre decks out there. Now, it's not impossible to beat Lost Kyogre. I've done it myself, but at the end of the day, when a Miraidon player has to play against a Lost Kyogre player, it's less about the Miraidon player beating and destroying the Lost Kyogre player. It's more about the Lost Kyogre player making some small misplays in the game, which really add up because Lost Kyogre, you have to play perfectly. On top of that, if you are playing Miraidon and you maybe pop off on some generators, maybe your opponent isn't able to set up as many comfies, then things can go down the wrong way. Like for example, I played against Raymond Long, who won Peoria Regionals. I played against him at a cup the other week, and I beat him because he literally prized 3 comfies, and he just had the 1 comfy in his deck, and that was pretty much all he had to play with. Raymond Long also prized, I think, 3 or 4 of his Colruses as well, Colrus Experiment, in a previous match before playing me. So honestly, it's not so much about beating the beating the lost Kyogre player. It's more about the Kyogre player kind of just losing to themselves. So again, huge shout out and congratulations to Jesse Parker. A back-to-back top 8 finish at Pokemon regional tournaments is insane. From 2nd place to then getting 5th place. I, for one, I'm definitely going to be looking at his list and playing with it over the next couple of weeks and while we're here on vacation in Mexico because, hey, Jesse Parker's definitely onto something. On to 4th place, we have yet again another Miraidon player. This time we have JW Creewall, another fellow content creator as well, so shout out to JW. I do believe that JW Creewall, Jesse Parker, and Andrew Mahone are all in the same like friend group and playtesting group for the Pokemon TCG, so it's no surprise that all 3 of them are continuing to play Miraidon and play it at a very, very high level. JW Creewall, however, changed up the list from what Jesse Parker played to get 5th. JW instead has the brand new Mew EX card, which I'm a huge fan of. I'm really enjoying Mew EX in Miraidon. However, the new Zapdos EX is a little trickier to really make work. So if you were gonna pick one of the new 151 cards to go with, Mew EX is probably the choice you're gonna wanna go for. The list is very similar to Jesse Parker's. However, they do have 2 copies of Beach Court and only 1 copy of Forest Heal Stone. So that's some of the changes that they made there. So just to show you guys the difference, here is JW Creewall's list, and then here is Jesse Parker's. Now back to JW Creewall, now back to Jesse Parker's. So the lists are very similar. The decks are gonna play pretty much identically. However, with the small text like Mew EX, with 2 Beach Courts in here, I think JW Creewall was always going for that turn 2 KO, and honestly, wouldn't even mind going 2nd in some of the games. When you have a deck like this where it's a 2 out of 3 format at a regional tournament, if you win the opening coin toss, you get to go first. You get to just pop off, do your thing, and play Path to the Peak to end your turn potentially, which cripples a lot of decks. So say you win game 1 in a convincing fashion, you win it, and now you have game 2. Most opponents, for the most part, the average deck wants to go first. So you are going 2nd, but this deck has a very strong going 2nd kind of aspect to it. So you don't even care that you're gonna go 2nd in the game 2. You kind of prefer it because you're gonna almost guarantee that turn 2 KO with the likes of Raikou, Miraidon, or Raichu. Coming in at number 3 is a fresh take on a deck that has just terrorized and dominated the Pokemon card game ever since its release. This is a deck that I actually played at a challenge on Friday night. I was playing this deck for fun, and it is DTE Mew VMAX with Grabbers. So here's my personal list that I played at a challenge where I got 2nd place. I only lost to my auto loss, which is Venomoth Spitops. If you don't know what Venomoth does, it basically is an item lock Pokemon, so even if it's not doing any damage to me, it means I can't retreat. It also means I can't play any items, and they have Crushing Hammers in the deck as well. So when you only have 4 DTEs in your deck, Venomoth Spitops is an absolute scary deck, and I just kind of got unlucky at my locals because I bumped into the local control player, and they just loved their control decks. Number 3 was Rowan Stavanaugh with Mew VMAX DTE with Grabber as well. Now, the funky tech card in this deck is the Luxray V, which is, it has a Fang Snipe attack for a double turbo energy as the attack cost. It's gonna do 30 minus 20, so 10, but you're not really attacking for the damage. You're attacking because you wanna get rid of one of your opponent's trainer cards in their hand. Say you combine Luxray V on the turn where you also played Judge, Path, and then you have Luxray V, and then you use Grabber, so you maybe throw away a Pokemon in their hand, and now you attack with Luxray V, now they get rid of a trainer card. You are cooking, man. That is a very, this is a control style Mew VMAX deck, and it's really cool. I didn't think about adding the Luxray V to my own personal list, but from what I've seen, a lot of the double turbo Mews that played at Peoria were using a Luxray V, and that was basically the hard counter Charizard, because Charizard is out there, you gotta respect it. For myself, I didn't play a Luxray V in my deck, and I destroyed Charizard decks. The Charizard decks I played against never even got to attack. However, my version of Mew VMAX has 4 Path to the Peak and 4 Grabbers. This deck instead has 2 Grabbers with 4 Lost Vacuums, 3 Path to the Peak, and then the Luxray V. Also, Penny. The choice for Penny is spicy. I love it, and it is fantastic as well. Because after you attack with the Luxray once, the Luxray can even absorb a hit, and then you just pick it back up with Penny, and you can apply that double turbo energy now to a Mew VMAX instead to attack and do some big damage. Or say you have your Genesect on the field already, and you really don't need to do anything else other than play a supporter that turn. You can use Penny after using Fusion Strike System to pick up that Genesect again, play the Genesect and Fusion Strike system again for some more. I think Rowan's meta call was a very, very good one. I've seen Rowan play Gardevoir for like forever. I played against him a lot recently, and he's always been playing Gardevoir. So when I found out that he was playing Mew VMAX DTE with Grabbers, I was so hyped. I was like, yo, let's go. That's the homie playing with the Mew VMAX deck that I believe in now because of the fun that is Grabber, Judge, and Pack. Coming in at second place and first place are two decks that us Miraidon players really hate and are very, very bad matchups for us. So I have to go back and watch like the top 8 games and see which Miraidon players had to face these evil Lost Box decks. But second place was taken by Jack Carter playing Turbo Lost Box. Turbo Lost Box is one of the best, most popular ways to play Lost Box style decks. It is a very consistent, flexible, evil deck. You have the Raikou, Dragonite, Sableye, and Cramorant in there as all your different attackers. Oh yeah, and how could I forget Radiant Greninja? This deck has an absolutely fantastic matchup spread as long as you can avoid the Rapid Strikes, which there aren't too many Rapid Strike decks out there these days. And with the rise of Mew VMAX decks, honestly, Rapid Strike might just drop down again in popularity. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. There's not too much to say about Jack Carter's second place Turbo Lost Box list. It looks pretty standard, nothing too out of the ordinary. The number one deck that took Peoria Regionals was the exact same deck that took first place by a teammate of the champion of this tournament at Peoria at Pittsburgh. We have Raymond Long with Lost Box Kyogre. I've been saying it. I have been saying this for weeks and weeks and weeks. If you know this channel, I've been saying Lost Box Kyogre is the best deck in the game. However, the only problem with it is you have to be one of the best players in the game to pilot it to absolute success. And so Raymond Long is one of those top players. He's also part of, I believe, Team Daily Grind, along with Andrew Estrada. So literally 2 friends, 2 teammates in Pokemon got back-to-back first place finishes at the Pokemon Regionals in North America. That's insane. Best of all, one of the homies here in Toronto, Kieran, he actually did a like hour-long plus video with both Andrew Estrada and Raymond Long. So if you guys want to see that like basically TED Talk masterclass of Lost Box Kyogre, I'm gonna leave their video linked down below. Maybe say SneakerTalk sent me for some fun if you want to check out their video. But they have some amazing insight to the deck, to how to sequence, how the matchups goes, and everything. Like I'm gonna go watch that video back while I'm here on vacation again. If I'm gonna, if I'm gonna lose again and again to Lost Kyogre, I want to try and figure out what the deck is kind of weak to, what the kryptonite is. So here's the list on screen right now. Of course, if you guys want to steal the list, it is going to be not an easy deck to pick up and master. You're going to want to put in hours upon hours into it. If you're a really cool person who wants to see some more competitive Pokemon card content, subscribe, hit that red button down below. It would help me out a ton. Feel free to check out one of these Pokemon tournament vlogs on this side of the screen, or check out the anti-meta deck list video I made over here if you want to have some fun. Catch you guys in the next video. I'm going to go free retreat to beach courts and play some volleyball.